A comeback win of the ages. Now, the much-awaited Paralympic Games finally kicked off this week in Paris, France. On Thursday, Team South Africa will be looking to improve on the 7 medals they won at the Tokyo Paralympics in Japan 3 years ago. To tell us more about the Games is our senior researcher here at the SABC, Janet Witten, who is in studio. Very good evening to you, Janet, and welcome to Sports Live. There is so much to talk about when it comes to the Paralympics, but I first want us to start things off with that comeback win that the Springboks managed against the All Blacks. It was looking like they were going to suffer their first loss of the Rugby Championship, but now it's 3 in a row.
That was a very impressive comeback, actually, because on 60 Minutes, as you said, and as you could see in the highlights that you just saw, it really looked as though New Zealand were going to cruise. And the Springboks at that stage didn't look as though they really had enough imagination. There was something missing. They didn't look as though they were going to come back and do it. But then the changes that got made were absolutely extraordinary, and it was fantastic. But what I found really, really encouraging about that game too was the fact that the youngsters really played ball. They came to the party. Sasha Feinberg Ngomezulu, Grant Williams. I feel sorry for Abalala Fasi having been sent off in the beginning, but he coped with it really well. He came back and played. So I think it was a great game. It was a little nerve-wracking towards the end, I have to say. But I think the fact that we have some youngsters coming through in the future of South African rugby is looking good. Is fantastic.
Absolutely. I mean, you spoke about Sasha Feinberg Ngomezulu, 16 points that he contributed to this match off the boot. And of course, it was, those tries from Bongimbo Nambi. The most important that we will really remember, as we see there, the other try that's coming through from Kwaka Smith is that of, there's Sasha Feinberg Ngomezulu with the conversions that he made all match round. Grant Williams with that winning try, absolutely spectacular. But the All Blacks, they will really see this as a match that they lost, especially when you look at the points that they lost in terms of the penalties that they conceded. This was a match that they could have really won, and it really was for them to lose.
I think they'll be very disappointed in the fact that they lost this game. It shouldn't have. They applied so much pressure throughout the game. Now, did they lose it, or did the South Africans just defend really well? The Springboks, in the beginning, there was a lot of pressure in that first 15-20 minutes. There was an extraordinary amount of pressure, and the South African defence held for the most part until we got that yellow card. So, but I do agree. I think that they'll sit back, and you could see in the interview with Scott Barrett afterwards, the All Blacks captain, they were disappointed. They didn't really have an explanation yet as to kind of exactly what went wrong and why this was so difficult. They'll want to come back hard. It's going to be tough next week.
Yeah, and Cape Town is where it's going to be going down. Of course, for Peter Steph du Toit, he was named the player of the match. But we'll wrap things up in terms of Springbok news when it comes there. But there is breaking news when it comes to the Paralympics. Before we really dissect the couple of days that we've seen taking place in Paris, France, Kgothatso Montjane, one of the most experienced Paralympians. This was going to be her 5th Paralympic Games. Janet, she has withdrawn.
We got notification just before we came on air that a message came through from the team that she'd withdrawn. They don't give a complete explanation. They just say for personal reasons. But that's really, really sad, because she was certainly a medal contender in the singles and possibly even in the doubles as well. She was playing doubles with Mariska Venter, and they won their first match. She was due to play her first singles match today, didn't take to the court. They haven't given an explanation. So it's hard to speculate as to exactly what the reason is. And as I mentioned, we literally heard just as we were coming into studio. But they do say for personal reasons. So it sounds as though it's not an injury, that there's something else amiss. But that's really sad for her, obviously, and for the team as well. Because as you said, this was her 5th Paralympics. She's the 2nd most experienced member of the South African team. Philippa Johnson-Dwyer, our equestrian dressage rider, is actually the most experienced. This is her 6th.
Sure, absolutely. absolutely heartbreaking. So that is the breaking news that has now come through. And in terms of Kgothatso Manjani, of course, she was really a medal hopeful for these Paralympic Games. She has now withdrawn from the Games. We won't be seeing her in action, and unfortunately will not be seeing her on the podium. When more information surfaces, we will definitely bring it to you. Now, in terms of the Games, started off on Thursday. Team South Africa, 31-member squad that has gone through. We are being represented in 9 different sporting codes. What have you made of our performance so far?
It's been a little disappointing in a sense, but I think you need to put that little disappointment into context. Yes, we haven't won any medals yet. We could very well be winning medals tonight. In fact, I'll check in a moment, because Christian Sadie is swimming in the individual medley as we speak. So and he's a medal hopeful. Yeah. But you need to put that into context. For example, earlier on this evening, Alani Ferreira swam in the final of the S1300 freestyle. She came 8th in the final, which on a certain level sounds disappointing, but she did that in an African record. So put the performances into context. It is a fairly small South African team. We've had slightly bigger teams in the past, but our real medal contenders are still to come, and some of them will come tomorrow. Pumelemo Mhlongo is I hate to say it because I don't want to put a hex on him, but he's virtually guaranteed a medal. And we've got possible medals in long jump as well tomorrow, and also later on in the week in swimming. Kat Swanepoel is a possible medal contender in swimming. So there are still medal hopefuls to come. The people that have taken part so far, none of them were kind of sureties. They would all have to have swum, run, jumped the fastest they'd ever done in order to get medals. So don't be disappointed just yet. I do think, though, that it might be difficult for this team to pass that medal count from Tokyo.
Oh, it won't be easy. Definitely it won't be. And just in terms of, the hype and the fanfare of the Paralympics, it just doesn't get that same excitement and that same talkability as the Olympic Games. What do you think needs to be done, for us to get to a point where the Paralympics also becomes a staple, just like the Olympics?
I think in many ways there are parallels between the fight that the Paralympics have to the fight that women's sport has had for so many years. And women's sport is only now starting to get recognition and starting to be able to compete, not just for viewership and for fan involvement, but also for sponsorships. And I think that's really, really important. It is easier for an able-bodied athlete, somebody like an Akani Simbine or somebody like that, to be able to participate because there is money in the sport. And even though he might not be getting a lot of money from South African authorities or from South African athletics authorities, he's able to compete and win a certain amount of money that allows him to be a professional athlete. The Paralympians aren't. And it's very difficult for them to compete on that level and to participate. And for many of them, participating is a lot more expensive than it is for an able-bodied athlete. The other problem that the Paralympics have, and I think this is a difficulty that is going to be hard to overcome, is that people don't really understand that there are a whole bunch of 100-meter races. There's not just one men's 100-meter race. There's a whole lot for the various levels of disability and the different kinds of disability that they have. So there isn't a blue ribbon event like there is for the 100 meters in athletics or for the 100 meters freestyle in swimming or various things like that. So we've got a bunch of people running 100-meter races in different categories. People don't necessarily understand the categories either. And when you don't understand those things, it's much more difficult to become invested in them, I think, and that's the problem that they face.
No, absolutely. And when we speak about, attracting and, the publicity around the Paralympics, the one thing that usually gets those going is having a poster boy or poster girl of the Games. I mean, in the past, we had the likes of Oscar Pistorius, Natalie du Toit. In terms of what we have at the moment, who would you say are our poster boys and poster girls?
Mpumelelo Mhlongo is definitely the best athlete the best athlete that we have at the Paralympics. He's got world records behind his name. He's really amazing. Christian Sadie has been a really good swimmer, has a long track record for South Africa and has achieved some amazing success. So I think that you're still looking at the same sports in a sense. You're looking at swimming and athletics. Those are the ones that get focused on. But I think that the problem, you accentuate the problem by mentioning the two athletes that you mentioned. Natalie du Toit and Oscar Pistorius both got attention because both also competed against able-bodied athletes at the Olympics or at the Commonwealth Games in the case of Natalie. And that's where their focus and their attention came. It's because you had these disabled athletes competing against able-bodied athletes. At the moment, we don't have anybody who does that, and it's a little unfair to expect you're only going to be noticed and you're only going to be recognised if you take part in able-bodied events. Sure. So yeah, that's a sad reality in a way.
We touched a little on our medal hopefuls. Simone Krier, would you also put her there? I mean, she broke a world record, you know, in the World Para-Athletics, so she really is also one of the favourites in discus.
She really is one of the favourites. I do think that she has the ability to do it. As you said, she has broken the world record before, so you can't discount anybody who's able to do that. And the Puseletso Mabota is the long jumper and sprinter. He's going to be taking part in both, but in two separate events, and he's definitely got a chance. And then you've got Super Pete, our cyclist, and he's such a great personality. He's such a fantastic personality. The other person that I think it would be really nice for people to watch out for is Kirsty Ware. She is a triathlete. She's taking part in the triathlon, and she's only been competing in triathlon for just over a year. She has the most extraordinary story, and that's why I think it would be really nice if people took notice of people like her. She got she got a disease that was undiagnosed in a sense, and for 14 years she was struggling. She was a marathon runner as an able-bodied athlete in her sort of early 20s, and she started struggling with the muscles on her leg. And she's actually got lupus essentially in her brain. It took them 14 years to diagnose it. So she had all of these issues, and she was told it was in her head. All of that time she was told it's in your head, get your head out of it because there's nothing wrong with you. And eventually she was diagnosed. And she's taken part in triathlon. She was formerly a marathon runner, a long distance marathon runner. So she's a stamina type athlete. The reason that I mention her in particular is not because of her extraordinary story and the fact that she's only been doing triathlon for only a year. She's the most positive person that you have ever come across in your life. She's so happy with the opportunities that she'd been given. And she arrived at the Olympic Village, and she took her some of her cereal that she liked eating for breakfast with her, because she didn't know she was going to be fed at the Paralympic Village. I mean, it's just wonderful, and she's just so appreciative. Yeah. She's there with a coach and a coach/manager, and she's never ever been able to compete with anybody with her. She's always been on her own, and she's just grateful for all of this opportunity that she's been given. It's a wonderful story, and she's just such a wonderful personality.
And really, that's what the Paralympic Games are about. You know, the stories, the resilience, you know, the hope and the fight. It truly is amazing. And what's also incredible is that SASCOC has made sure that the incentives remain the same as the Olympians, really trying to level the playing field, which I think is incredible. Janet, thank you so much for making time for us. You always bring us expert analysis, especially when it comes to the games. And of course, we know that the gold medalists will be earning 400,000 rands each. The silver medalists, it will be 200,000 rands each. And of course, for the bronze, 75,000 rands. And the guides will also be incentivized, which is absolutely incredible. The big question is, can we surpass the medal tally of 7, which was achieved in Tokyo just a couple of years ago, 3 years ago? We wait and see. As it stands, South Africa have still not medaled yet, but we still have a lot more days to go in terms of these Paralympic Games.